Thank you for joining us. I'm going to start the meeting by, we need to appoint somebody a Clerk Pro Tem because all of our clerkers are taking votes and tallies right now. So I'm going to appoint myself, and hopefully I can keep that together while running the meeting, so wish me luck. Okay, so be it resolved that in the absence of the District Clerk, the Board of Education hereby appoints Ms. Jennifer Daly, Board President, to serve as Clerk Pro Tem for this meeting in order for the District Clerk, Ms. Catherine Platt, to facilitate the vote. Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
A second. Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Lucky me. Okay. So we were in executive session to discuss the superintendent's evaluation. So we've already done our pledge and our roll call. So I will share that the next Board of Education meeting will be held on June 7th at 7 p.m. in the cafeteria of the Haldane Central School District. And we're in the cafeteria because the middle school play is in the auditorium. Thank you very much. And this meeting is being streamed live. So if there's anybody at home that has not voted yet, I encourage you to put down what you're doing and to come to the Haldane Elementary School Library and vote for the school budget and the Board of Education trustees. The polls close at 9 o'clock, so at which time we will anxiously look forward to the results together. And I will turn it over to Dr. Benante.
Jen, I'm sorry to start on a sad note or somber note, but as we learned this weekend of the racially motivated mass shooting in Buffalo, I wanted to make the board aware and also share with members of our community pieces of my message with staff prior to the start of the school day yesterday, really just encouraging them and reminding them that we remain a source of compassion, not only for those who have family and friends in Buffalo, but also for our Black students and families who may feel particular vulnerability right now in light of those events. And it's easy to I would say it's easy, but perhaps we see these as separate from the school, but there are implications when such things happen on our schools. Notably, it serves as a reminder for how we identify and respond to concerning behaviors that we may observe with our students and our processes and procedures for that. Our role in helping families understand and support our kids' online behavior, and then also enhancing our students and our staff members' appreciation for diversity and inclusion on our campus and in our communities. So just wanted to share that with the board, and obviously as we continue to learn more about this incident and the background of the individual who conducted these acts, we're reviewing those internally with our team, with our safety and security consultants from Alteris to see if there's anything more that we can draw from this to help us in our work with our students and as a school community. As a point of transition, there's a lot of good happening in the world and in our community, and I know that our administrators look forward to sharing some highlights with you as part of their reports, but I did just want to make mention that we had our Staff Appreciation Week recently, and that overlapped with what is now the end of Law Enforcement Officer Appreciation Week. And I know Deputy Talvey is a consistent and steady presence, not only at our board meetings, but in our school community as a whole. And I just wanted to extend our appreciation to Deputy Talvey for all that he does to support our students, our staff members, and our families as our school resource officer. We're very lucky to have him and have been very lucky to have the support of the Putnam County Sheriff's Department as part of our school community for many years now. So I just wanted to mention that. Anthony, thank you again. We're honored to have you as part of our school community and look forward to the great work that we continue to do together, sir, here at Haldane. With that, Jen, that concludes my remarks.
Okay, thank you. Is there any communication from the public at this time? All right, we'll go into our information reports. So we'll start with Ms. Duman.
Good evening, everybody. It's been exciting to host everyone for the vote today. You don't usually have that down in the elementary school. It's usually in the middle school or last year in the cafeteria, but it's been lovely to see our parents and community members come through and appreciate our elementary library, which I will say from my time at Haldane is one of the prettiest rooms in the building, and always one of my favorites. So it was good to have everybody, and come vote if you haven't. For the elementary report, the last month has been pretty busy, and we are about to enter a very busy time. So right now, probably at school and at home, my favorite thing that is going on is the third grade country research projects, which I am watching our students do, and then also living with my own third grader, since it's a pretty standard New York exploration in third grade, is choosing a country and digging in and learning a little bit about it. So our third graders are creating informational bags that have all the cool things that represent what they're learning about a country of their choice. My daughter's doing Denmark, so I'm learning things about Denmark that I have never learned before. And our students are doing that for the countries that they're exploring. And those are always exciting. Last time we talked about the second grade biography reports, and for third grade, this is sort of their chance to highlight something they're learning about, share it with their classmates, and appreciate another place in the world and what traditions and parts of their country are different from their own and then similar to themselves. So that's always exciting. Fifth grade is our culminating year, so there's a lot of excitement going on right there. They are researching roller coasters and the physics of roller coasters and designing roller coasters to gear up for lake compounds, which will happen in June. And then in the next, 2 weeks, we have 2 assemblies for our K2 students around science, and then we have an author visit around diversity. An author who has experienced dyslexia will be coming and talking about his experience as an author and his process with our K5 students. We are bringing back Field Day next week and the following week, which we haven't had since I've been here. And so I'm excited to see field days everywhere look a little bit different. And so I am excited to see what Haldane Field Day is to celebrate our students and their wellness and physical activity and just the fun of performing those different activities together in a grade level culminating event. And in case you didn't know, today is C is for Colors Day, so I hope you're all wearing your favorite color. And we are in the beginning of our alphabet countdown towards the end of the year, where Z will be zip up your backpack and zip out of here. So tomorrow is D is for Donuts Day. Get ready. I gave the Dunkin' Donuts in town a heads up that there may be a lot of donut purchases. So as we count down towards the end of the year, feel free to follow along with the elementary school and join us in our alphabet countdown, which is on the website.
Dr. Seelke.
Good evening, everyone. Budget vote night is always very exciting, so thank you to those of you who have come out to vote, and please come out if you haven't. I printed the alphabet for the calendar because it's so colorful and beautiful that I have to follow along. Ms. German didn't mention that the very first day was A is for Animals, and just one of the cutest things I've ever seen is the elementary students walking around with their stuffed animals and taking care of their stuffed animals at recess. And it was really a wonderful day that day on Friday. So I just want to start by giving a special thank you to Mr. Wick. Last month was Earth Day, and apart from the fact that the middle schoolers were asked to bring in reusable water bottles, Mr. Wick's ecology class is like a little gem in the curriculum at the middle school, and the class engages in so many different explorations of the natural world here on campus as well. So there's bluebird eggs in the birdhouses that students built years ago that are still nested in. Students do studies up at James Pond, and they explore toads and the life in the pond. And they also did a campus cleanup on Earth Day. And this is no remark on our facilities, but 16 pounds of garbage were picked up. So it's always a help when things are hiding in nooks and crannies, and there's students eager to have a clean and ecological campus picking them up. So a big thank you to those students and to Mr. Wick. Middle school students completed the New York State Mathematics and English Language Arts assessments, and the 8th grade science and language checkpoint exams are coming up, as well as the spring administration of the NWA MAPS testing. So it's still a very academic time of the year, even though it's also a very fun time of the year. And I'd say it's more fun this year than it's been in the last 2 years, because our students have been able to partake in many of those milestone trips that they haven't had the opportunity to do so. So 8th grade went to Frost Valley. Our 6th grade, despite logistical issues, went down to the Met. Next Wednesday, our 6th and 7th grade will enjoy the first annual Education Day at Duchess Stadium. Our music students are going to be participating in music in the parks in the first week in June. So it's just really a very exciting time. And just my final word about music, congratulations to Ms. Stein and Mr. Rich and Mr. McGroarty and the students who participated in the first indoor middle school concert since 2019. Spirits were really high in the audience, and parents appreciated the opportunity to gather for the music, and it was a wonderful night. And I'll share with the board and anyone watching the quote that I shared with the audience that night, because I think it really speaks to the importance of music education. So in the words of Plato, music is a more potent instrument than any other for education, because rhythm and harmony find their way into the inward places of the soul. So thank you for supporting that.
Thank you. Ms. Stiffen.
Thank you. I feel I must also reiterate, if you haven't voted yet, please get out and vote. The theme here. So I'd like to start this evening talking a little bit about the seal of biliteracy, and I think you heard me talk about it a couple years ago. And at that point, we were piloting the program, and we were piloting with our ELL students. This year, after 2 years of COVID, we have been able to certify that 7 students at Haldane High School are now eligible for the seal of biliteracy. So this is a pretty extensive process for them to go through. It includes standardized test scores, it includes classroom grades, it includes presentations in the language that they are selecting the seal in by a panel to be voted and judged on. In terms of proving that they're there, they need to be able to engage in conversation back and forth in that language. So I'm super proud of the 7 students. I am going to mention them by name. Tim Benante, Betsy McBride, Megan Toman, Shay DeCaro, Helen Chiera, Jessie Osterfeld, and Hannah Benson. They will be recognized at the Academic Awards Night. In addition to at graduation, they will be wearing cords specific to being recognized as biliterate. As we move down the road with this, I think we'll see kids who will receive the seal in more than 2 languages. We have many students that we encourage to, whether they're exploring language outside or they pick up a second language within the high school where they're taking the sequence of both Spanish and French, where they could be triliterate, and so forth and so on. So thank you to Mrs. Jennings, who has been an integral part of that, to Ms. Ortiz, and to Madam Hopkin. Thanks to Mr. Elder. He also served on the panel to be able to see the presentations this year. So I want to thank all of them for that. In a spirit of this workshop actually is the last workshop before graduation, because graduation, as you know, is June 18th. There are a lot of upcoming dates as well at the high school. So first, our concert is tomorrow night. So please feel free to come. If you know, there's the jazz band, the rock band, the choirs, the Blue Notes. So there's a lot going on tomorrow night. On Thursday night is the Arts Awards night, and that too is taking place here in this auditorium at 7 p.m. Our senior and sophomore trips are coming up within the next week. And then we have our typical senior events. So the senior dinner, the senior picnic, the senior scoop the loop, and graduation will all take place that following week. And the first ever art show, K-12, will be on June 16th in the auditorium. I can't say first ever, that's not true. First in my time at Haldane, that's not ever. That might be a long time, it's not ever. So art show, June 16th, K-12. So please come out and see that.
Thank you. Mr. Elder.
Good evening, everybody. Slightly different from some academics. I'm going to talk some human resources. The Haldane Central School District is contracting with the Orange Ulster's BOCES records management team. And this was one of the areas that was identified on our initial audit, our HR audit earlier in the fall. And what the Orange Ulster's Comprehensive Records Management Team does is they provide school districts and public agencies with a series of individuals who come on out and do a review of our personnel records. And in this case, we're going to be taking a look at our active personnel records as well as our inactive personnel records. And we have accumulated, as many districts do, several boxes of inactive records over the years. And this is kind of one of the first steps. So they'll be out here on campus this Thursday, May 19th, and they come with a team of about 3 or 4 individuals. And the first step is just to kind of go through, take a look at what we have, and take a look at some of the volume of what we have, and both really focusing this time around on our inactive files. The next steps after this identifying is that they'll take some of our inactive files away, and the services particularly that we're looking for is that they're going to go through these and they're going to purge them of all information that doesn't need to be there anymore. So obviously there's a timeline and a timetable in terms of inactive files and personnel files, and I think if they're left to be, they just kind of continue to sit there for a while. So they're going to be going through and kind of purging these files and making sure that they're cleaned up and that the necessary information lives there. And I think the second thing that I think is a little bit more exciting is then they're going to go through the process of digitizing these files. And they store them in a kind of electric library that we contract with and they'll kind of store. So it's great because it's going to give us a little bit more immediate access to some of these things, searchable in that way. It's also free up a lot of extra room, I feel like, that some of these places are taken care of. And so like I said, they'll be out here on Wednesday, May 19th, and it's a step towards kind of working through some of our file systems, and once they're done with our inactive files, the next step is to take a look at our active personnel files and kind of do the same process, just making sure that our record system is up to date and as complete as possible, and start thinking about how we continue to maintain an efficient record system moving forward.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Cowan.
Good evening. I'd like to talk about the warmth and the warm weather that has been around for the past couple of weeks has brought our PE classes outside finally, and we're excited to see that our high school students are currently engaged in a softball unit out on the 90 softball field, and they are also learning and playing a variety of backyard games like bocce, washers, spike ball, and can jam. In addition, our high school students will take hikes to Stony Point, the Foundry, and the gazebo. Our middle school PE classes are currently playing speedball on the turf field, participating in softball, and will hike to Sandy Beach. They will also learn backyard games beginning with ladder ball and cornhole. At the elementary level, our students are learning racket activities, volleyball skills, and will hike to James Pond. And our elementary students are particularly excited for Field Day, which will be May 19th, 20th, and 23rd. So again, it's just, today was a perfect example, beautiful day. Our classes are outside, so it's nice to see them engage in some fun activities. Quick athletics update. We had sectionals begin this week for spring sports. And I'd like to start by just pointing out our varsity girls lacrosse team. This was their first year as a lacrosse team, and I just want to point out that it was a remarkable accomplishment for them to make sectionals. They were at Briarcliff today. Our varsity boys lacrosse team, they were home. We just came off the field against Dobbs Ferry, and our boys team was successful. They'll be going to Bronxville for the next round of sectionals on Friday. Our varsity baseball team is currently at LaFell for game 1 of a 3-game series. We'll be home tomorrow for a 4:45 start at Mayors Park for game 2. I'd like to say congratulations to Tim Benante, representing our varsity golf team. Yesterday was the first round of the golf sectionals. Tim shot an 81 and has advanced to round 2, which will be tomorrow at the Westchester Country Club. We wish Tim all the best tomorrow down in Westchester. And our track and field sectionals, they will begin on May 26th at Valhalla High School. And lastly, I'd like to just make a reminder that the High School Athletic Award Night will be June 13th at 6 o'clock p.m. The Blue Devil Booster Club and Haldane Athletic Program are collaborating to plan that event. So we'll be honoring all of our high school students at that night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's exhausting just listening to all these dates. You guys got so much going on. Mr. Walsh.
Good evening. As we are quickly approaching Memorial Day, we seem to be at the peak time for extracurricular activities, athletic events, assemblies, field days. We spend most of our day just supporting these events and making sure that they can kick off without any issue, hopefully without any issue. We just anticipate this pace to keep going straight through graduation. While we're managing these daily activities, we're still looking forward to summer. We started our planning for summer work. Whether it's a budget review to making sure that we have materials, ordering materials, inventory, making sure that, kickoff meetings with projects that are going to occur, making sure that we're ready to just kick off the summer directly as soon as the kids let out for the summer. CS Architecture, the firm that has been contracted for the master plan, conducted a kickoff meeting here on site with the administrative leadership team. During that meeting, we also planned a bunch of focus group meetings. Some of them took place last week, some are taking place tomorrow. Some of those groups include the administration, facilities, PTA, faculty and curriculum council, student groups, Haldane Arts Alliance, the school foundation, Booster Club Athletics. So we're grateful that they've been on site and kicked this project off very quickly. Additionally, they did conduct a drone overflight last week. This provides a high resolution map of the district. Topographical information that can be utilized for future phases of conceptual design. And that's all.
Thank you. Okay, we're going into consent agenda minutes. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second?
These are the minutes from our May 3rd meeting and our May 9th meeting. Is there any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay. The Wellness Committee and Code of Conduct Committee minutes are here for review. Going into consent agenda financial, may I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second?
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Consent agenda personnel, may I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second. Any discussion?
I had a question. The social studies teacher, she's done this year, at the end of the school year?
Correct.
And obviously they're searching for someone, that search has started already?
Yeah, so once you act on this evening's agenda, that position will be first. We'll post internally to see if there's any interested transfers related to the position. Whether or not those honored will dictate the position, then we post publicly for hire.
Thanks. Okay, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Board committee reports, the policy committee update. Peggy, I don't know if you have anything you'd like to share.
We're meeting again on June 7th. Expecting, actually, we're meeting on June 7th. That's what I can tell you right now.
Great. Meeting on June 7th. That is the update. I'm putting you towards a microphone, Peggy. Thank you. Westchester Putnam School Boards Association. I don't have an update. We're having our end of year dinner / meeting happens the first week of June. If anyone wants to attend, we just need to tell Catherine and she hooks us up. And there's no limit to how many board members or superintendents from every school that can attend, would like to attend, can attend. So if anyone wants to go to that, we can let Catherine know. Okay, new business, CSE, CPSE recommendations. So I'm turning over to myself to read that. Be it resolved, upon the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, the Board of Education hereby approves the recommendations of the Committees on Special Education and Preschool Education as presented. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay. So we're going to discuss the Board of Education self-evaluation form. So John has some copies for us. Did you?
I did.
And Peggy, I think John emailed it to you.
He did.
Awesome.
Fantastic.
So the point of this is for us to just take some time to look at the evaluation form to see if there's anything we'd like adjusted, right? Before we go through it and use it for our own evaluation.
Okay, so copies to the board. Anyone playing along at home, if you want to take a look at it, they're actually publicly available documents from NYSBA that you can download, which is a self-evaluation form. As a reminder to everyone, we have started to do this over the past couple of years as a reminder that we should be thinking about what we do and how we do it, which is a good practice. Over the course of, I think, all of those years, but especially last year and the beginning of this year, there's always some commentary about specific. It's divided into 5 standards. Each standard has 5 practices upon which we self-evaluate. There's always a little bit of comment about some of the practices being less or more applicable to what we actually feel like we do or we feel like our board does. So I have sent to the board, I've passed around all of the standards and the practices divided up as we rate ourselves. And also I summarized on a separate piece of paper what I have heard previously being discussed as sort of the intent being, do we really do this? Should we be doing this? Is this something that our board should be doing, and therefore should we be rating ourselves? So rather than reading through every single standard and every single practice, although I encourage the board to take a look at them, the ones that I highlighted and remembered as being things that we've discussed before were in Standard 3 in communicate. And everyone, I'll just read off the standards. Standard 1 is vision, leadership, and accountability. And the description is the Board of Education commits to a vision of high student achievement and effective instruction, specifies clear goals to realize that vision, demands accountability for results, and supports continuous improvement of the district. And again, there are 5 practices under that. Standard 2 is board governance and policy. The Board of Education works effectively as a team and collaborates with the superintendent, exhibits a shared understanding of board and superintendent roles, maintains a set of board operating procedures, and governs through the district through policy. Standard 3 is communication and community relations. Board of Education effectively communicates with the superintendent and the local community, represents community interests and values, and ensures district information and decisions are communicated to the community. Standard 4, fiscal resources, staff recruitment, and environment. The Board of Education oversees the fiscal conditions of the district, aligns resources to meet district goals, ensures appropriate policies for staff recruitment and retention, supports district-wide learning, and promotes conditions for health and safety. And finally, the 5th standard is ethical leadership. The Board of Education promotes the success of all students and staff and conducts district business in a fair, respectful, and responsible manner. Okay. So, as a reminder, this is not a self-rating opportunity. There are certainly areas in which we can do better. This is are there practices that we feel like are not necessarily applicable to what we think that we should be doing or thinking about as a board? So the practices that I have heard previously being discussed as, should we really be thinking about this, are 3, or maybe 2, and I added 1 myself. Under Standard 3, Communication, Community Relations, I think it's practice E. The board is an advocate for the district's interests with legislators and other elected public officials. That has sort of historically come up as do we do that? Should we be doing that? Is that our role? Is that what we want to be doing? I'll leave that there. And the other two are in standard 4, fiscal resources, staff recruitment, and environment. I added this one. The board monitors a facilities plan that meets district student and staff health and safety regulations and guidelines. I found it interesting that the monitoring of a facilities plan does not speak to educational goals. So I thought that might be something we would want to add to that as an option. And the other one that has come up historically as something that we sort of question is the board supports the recruitment of highly effective teachers, administrators, and staff and provides professional development and support to meet APPR requirements. I think the conversation previously has been, yes, we certainly support all of those, and we do that through the budgeting process. And we provide professional development through the budgeting process and support, but some of this is maybe a step removed from what the board's roles and responsibilities are and more with the district itself. So that's my summary of conversation that I've heard, but I would like to open it up to anybody else in terms of what you either would have thought should be amended, or maybe we shouldn't be doing, or whether we should keep things as they are.
Just on standard 3, as to whether or not we advocate for the district's interests with legislators, I think we found ourselves coming to that and asking if that was a priority for us and if it was something that we wanted to prioritize. And certainly at the time when we were discussing, we felt like that really wasn't a focus of ours, and we didn't feel a particular mandate to do so for whatever reason. So it felt like it was just difficult for us in one way or another to say we were doing it well, since we really weren't actively doing it, nor did we have a plan to do so. So I don't, unless we feel like that's something we want to be doing. I feel like grading ourselves on something that we're not actually doing is not doesn't make
grading
a
ourselves on
sense.
something we're not actually doing doesn't make a lot of sense. But I actually feel like, I mean, on a personal level, so I've been an active advocate, through my school board service, and I actually feel like personally it's very important. But even though I have been doing it personally and acting on behalf of Haldane to do that, it's never really been a mandate from the board to do that. Right. So there has always been a moment of like, okay, well, I guess Jen does this, but the board per se doesn't do it. Although I've always felt like I'm doing it on behalf of the board, so I feel like the board is doing it.
Right.
So, I don't know. I don't know what to say about this, except that I don't think it should be removed. I mean, we might want to amend the language, because I do think that it should remain there as something we consider. I think if we take it off the table, then it goes away as a priority. And I think there are times where it is a priority.
Right. And that's actually a good point. I think I didn't do probably justice for what we could potentially do. We could, for any of these where we feel like it's not our role, or not our role maybe at that time in that particular circumstance, we could just, not this year, sort of like an NA for this wasn't on the slate of what we felt like we should be doing this year. We leave it on the rubric, but we just don't grade ourselves on it. We could eliminate things and change the rubric entirely and adjust it to what we want and we think is right for the Haldane district. And we could change language, to your point, or we could add new practices that we think are not covered that we should be covered. So there's sort of a continuum of things that we could do. So you could be advocating, it's something we need to keep an eye on, and we may not as a board decide to do that every year, advocate directly with elected officials, but we need to be mindful of it. And so when there are opportunities for individuals to do that, we support that, and we do feel like that person would be representing the board, but we shouldn't remove it altogether.
Yeah, and I also want to say that, other elected public officials means our mayor.
Correct. Yeah.
So it doesn't just mean, interacting effectively with, Chuck Schumer.
Right.
It also means, how do we interact with the Phillipstown board and the education liaisons on the village boards. So, maybe we want to amend it a little bit just to point those things out, but I actually do think that that's part of our job is to make sure we're interacting with those individuals in a positive and effective way. So maybe we just need to consider how we word it, or consider how we think about it, that it's not always about lobbying in Albany.
Right.
You know, there's other parts to it.
That's a good point. I don't know, can folks hear me if I'm talking?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, so when I've read this in the past, I've thought that, yes, some members of the board do this, like Jen in particular, with especially the work you do with the state legislature, and actually, you know, in sort of advocating and in that way, but that it wasn't something that we had taken on as a board, right? I mean, in a sense that if it were something that we were going to take on as a board, there would, I think there would be a more explicit decision and more collaboration around that, right? And so I wanted us just to really have this conversation. I actually agree with Jen that we should keep it on there, but I do think, and I don't even know if the wording needs to be changed. I appreciate Jen's expansion of it to recognize that elected officials go from local, you know, all the way up. But I just think that we actually need to be pretty honest about it, right? Like if it's not something that the board is doing, you know, systematically and intentionally as a group, we just need to be pretty honest when we rate ourselves that that's not something that we do. We're really fortunate that Jen has taken that on and actually reports back to us, and that's been, and you know, we've all really benefited from that. But yeah, just what I said, that it's not something that we've taken on to do as a collective.
Just remind me, when do we rate ourselves, evaluate ourselves?
Immediately after making a decision as to what we want to rate ourselves on. So we did a mid-year where we pointed out the things that we thought we were doing well, our glows and our grows. But post this process, we're going to do a full rating on, much like we just did for Dr. Benante, with the same sort of rating and then color commentary.
Great.
Anything else? In reading through everything else in detail, I didn't find a bunch of other places where it was like, where I felt what we do, or to Peggy's point, actively work on as a board, or in dramatic opposition, or either not attended to, or something in the rubric where we're like, that's not what we do at Haldane. So I didn't find a lot of places where I felt like there was something that needed to be adjusted. I would make the recommendation that when we talk about a facilities plan, we think about a facilities plan that encourages educational outcomes, not just health and safety outcomes.
I think that's a great point, and I think that maybe even adding, whether we add the language into that letter C, or we just, you know, consider it, yeah, health and safety is just part of the facilities role, right? So I think that makes a lot of sense.
Okay. And especially with the campus master plan, I think we're all very cognizant of the educational outcomes of facilities plan. Sean, were you going to say something? I
was just going to, speaking to F, this sense of being once removed. I agree that it's difficult to rate us on because it feels like, well, of course we support the recruitment of X, Y, and Z. That's what we do. And I don't know how to rate our supportment except for our enthusiasm for that being well done, in one way or another. But we don't actively participate in that process outside of those opportunities we get to, interview a candidate that's been recommended for our approval. So I don't know that it needs to be removed, but I do think it needs to be acknowledged that in some ways, whether it's actually an appropriate thing for the board to rate itself on I'm not sure about. That's all.
Well, I mean, I think the way that we support the recruitment of teachers, admins, and staff is through budgeting process and through the evaluation of the superintendent, because it's his job to then make sure that other people are being held accountable and are
Right.
getting the professional development that they need. So I think we do have a role in this, but our role is more, it's more top level than
Right.
Yeah.
in the daily.
In which case, the only way that, or maybe I'm overstating, but the only way in which we would ever actually say we're not doing a good job is if there was an active request for financial support for some sort of personnel or training, and we said no.
Yes.
Right.
Which could totally happen.
Yeah.
Which could happen.
That could absolutely happen. There
Yeah.
could be a budget presentation where the superintendent is suggesting allocating $75,000 for a professional development plan, and the board
And we
says,
said no.
I don't think so.
Right.
That money needs to go to something else.
Right.
So that could totally happen. That's within the board's.
It could happen. I would just say that in general, our self-rating on this will be consistently, we're there for you.
Great.
Which is fine. Which is fine. As long as I think we want to be supportive of this type of activity, and if we're comfortable with that, basically year on year, as long as we're providing the budget, we're thinking about personnel, director of HR, recruitment, all those sorts of things. We're providing the funding for attending job fairs and that kind of activity, whether it's new hire orientation. Then we have.
That is how we do it.
There you
That
go.
is how we support
Perfect.
those activities. Yeah.
Cool. Anything else? I won't put anybody else on the spot. Anything else in a quick read through of either standards practices? And if you want, more than happy to, if you want to take it offline and do a quick read through, if there's anything else that comes to the fore of, I don't think this, I'd like to change the language, but what I'm hearing now is we'll keep the advocate for district's interests. Maybe we just add the language that clarifies or enumerates that it's at the very village, town, county, state, to include all.
Yeah.
Well, I wonder then if we're going to keep that in,
Yep.
if it's not wise for us to, bring it up perhaps in retreat about having a plan or having some priorities that we do want to collectively as a board begin to advocate for outside of, those that are suggested by NISBA or et cetera that we sort of tacitly agree or disagree with. I just put that out there as a possibility so that.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
And then I will add educational activities into the facilities plan.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
And we'll keep standard 4F.
Yep.
All right.
I'm good with all that. So then, John, do you want to just review what the schedule is for the?
Yes, I'm going to send this out. I'll make these updates, but I'll send out the form. Let me see if I can do this. Because it's a PDF, I'll send this out in a Word document with the updated on these couple of particular practices, but they're not substantially different. So everyone will get the PDF, the writable PDF form. If you can get responses to me, input to me by the end of May, so we can review it at our June, is it the 7th meeting? Yeah. It's public commentary, so we won't be in an exec session. So if you can share it to me by the end of May, I'll compile, much like Peggy does for the superintendent. I'll bring, as I've done before, our ratings and the commentary to talk about and try to do a little bit of a summary for, again, if there are consistent themes at the standard level. And then we can have a commentary both on what we discover and usually what comes out of it, some areas that we want to work on in our retreat over the course of the summer. That provides good fodder for where we want to do, what we want to do and where we want to go.
Okay, sounds good.
Sound good?
Yes, thank you.
Cool. Thank you.
Okay, so I feel like we have concluded our business. And now we get to wait for the budget results. So we're going to pause the meeting. So I think, Cecilia, we're going to have it probably at least an hour. So I don't know if you want to just keep it live and keep it quiet or turn it off and turn it back on, whatever you decide. But the mics, I think, at this point can go off and we can be in recess. Peggy?
Oh, no, it's Chris.
Oh, hi, Chris. I'm sorry. I called her home phone. Okay, bye. I got to call her mobile phone. Sorry. Peggy's
The
like,
whole
what?
town has to wait for Peggy.
The whole town is waiting for Peggy.
What time zone is Peggy in?
I don't know.
We're dialing in Peggy.
Hi, are you there? Okay, I'm going to put you on speakerphone, okay? Okay. Okay, we're ready.
Okay, the following are the results of the annual district meeting of May 17th, 2022. Proposition 1, the school budget has passed. 395 yes, 113 votes no. Proposition 2, student bus and utility equipment has passed, 390 versus 118. In the trustee election, Sean McNall received 432 votes. Ezra Clemenson received 417 votes. The number of write-in votes was 8. Thereby, Sean McNall and Ezra Clemenson will assume the open trustee positions on the Haldane Board of Education commencing July 1st, 2022.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations, everybody.
Okay, I think we have to officially accept these results. So, be it resolved that upon the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, the Board of Education hereby accepts the results of the annual district meeting, budget vote, and trustee vote for Tuesday, May 17th, 2022, as indicated below. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Very good. And I think that's all I have to do. Is that correct for accepting all of this? Is there any communication from the public at this time? Are there any board reflections to share?
Congratulations to Sean and Ezra. And congratulations to Dr. Benante and Danielle for all of her work, even though she's not here, to get us through the budget this year.
Hear, hear. Dr. Benante, any final thoughts?
Just want to echo John's remarks and a special thanks to our community again for coming out and supporting our budget. I think I speak on behalf of us all when I say that we're very excited about the opportunities that will be available to our kids through this budget, which will only continue to expand. Also wanted to thank our supporting organizations, the School Foundation, the Arts Alliance, our PTA, the Blue Devil Booster Club, and the Faculty Association for your assistance in getting out the vote. And also congratulations to Sean and Ezra. I know we look forward to working with you or continuing to work with you in the future.
Okay, very good. I'd like to make a motion to adjourn. May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a good night. Thanks, Peggy.